We're going to call this one, this is Brother Peter with tidbits from the Word. We're going to call this one honor. Just going to be the word honor up there. Matthew chapter 15. We live in a world today that honor is not respected anymore. The word honor means nothing anymore. You can say honor and people don't know what you're even talking about. They say, what does that word mean? What is honor? What is that? Let me tell you what honor is. Honor is the respect of an action toward something that's respectful. That's what honor is. Honor is obeying the commander. Honor is being obedient. Honor is if you hire on with a man and he hires you and he said, I'm going to give you $10 an hour. How you honor that man is you go out and do a full hour's worth of work so that when you get that $10 you earned it by honor. Honor is being obedient. Obedience is something that we don't have much of today in the world. Chapter 15 in the book of Matthew, it said, Then came Jesus to the scribes and the Pharisees, which were of Jerusalem, saying, Why do thy disciples transgress the tradition of the elders? For they wash not their hands when they eat bread. But he answered and said unto them. Now let me go back. I'm going to go back and read that verse. I read that verse wrong. I'm going to read it to you right now. Listen to what I'm reading. Be careful when you're reading the Bible that you make sure that you're reading what you're reading and you're saying what you're reading and you're thinking what you're reading and you know what you're reading. All you have to do is read one word wrongly and you can get a wrong description of what the Bible's saying. That's why Brother Peter's all the time talking about using the King James Version and not changing any of the words. You can change the words and change the meaning. Be careful when you're reading that you're reading what you're reading. Otherwise you read something that you're not reading. Do you know that you can read something and be thinking about something else and actually think that what you read is not what you read? So be very careful. It said, Then came to Jesus scribes and Pharisees, which were of Jerusalem, saying, Why do thy disciples transgress the traditions of the elders? For they wash not their hands when they eat bread. Now you remember I left out the word to when I read it before. I changed the whole complete thing around by leaving out that to, because I said then came Jesus and that changed everything. I just changed it all by reading it correctly. Be careful. Be very careful when you're studying and when you're learning. And when you're, hey, I've been 40 years in this book, and I'm studying. You say, well, right now you're teaching, Brother Peter. No, yeah, I'm teaching, but I'm studying at the same time. My teaching and my studying are the same thing. When you're studying, if you're teaching, you're studying correctly. And you have to be very careful, especially, I'm in front of this machine. The whole world can see it. I'm accountable to be careful that I don't mislead somebody by leaving a word out or adding a word. Don't make more of the scripture than the scripture is. Have you been guilty of that, Brother Peter? Yes, I have. I've been guilty of that. Have you been guilty of making a mistake? Yes, I have. I've been guilty of making a mistake. I ask the Lord to forgive me all the time, and I try to be careful and be real careful when you're teaching. If you're a Sunday school teacher and you're watching this morning, you need to get in the Word on Monday morning. You need to stay in the Word until Sunday morning. You need to be in the Word and in the prayer closet just before you step before your class. When you step before your class, those people will know that you've been with God, and they will learn, and they will hear what you've got to say to them. Now, if you're a Sunday school teacher and you're stumbling, bumbling, and having a problem, then you need to get on the ball, get in the Word, and get it right. All right, let's see. We're in the King James Version, Matthew chapter 15. It said, Why do ye also transgress the commandment of God by your traditions. For God commandeth, saying, Honor thy father and thy mother, and he that accurses his father or mother, let him die the death. But I say unto you, whosoever shall say to his father or mother, It is a gift by whatsoever thou minglest, be profited by me. The honor not a man, and honor not his father and mother, he shall be free. Thus have ye made the commandment of God of none effect by your tradition. Ye hypocrites, well did Isaiah prophesy of you, saying, These people draweth nigh unto me with their mouth, and honoreth me with their lips, but their heart is far from me. But in vain they do worship me, teaching of the doctrine and the commandments of men. Now, what had happened in 15 here was these scribes and these Pharisees had strayed so far from the law of God that they had turned it upside down, and they were putting their own commandments on it. And what Jesus said right here, they said backwards. They said it completely opposite. And they questioned Jesus because his disciples came along and they were walking through the wheat field, and they in the Bible said they hungered, or they were hungry, and they let their hands slide up those sheaves and get a handful of that wheat, raw wheat, and they threw it into their mouth and ate it. And those scribes and Pharisees over there saw them doing it, and they came to Jesus and said, Hey, do you know that the law that was in the Bible was you had to wash your hands before you eat? And they didn't wash their hands before they ate. And Jesus rebuked them for it and said, Hey, you strain out a gnat and swallow a camel. He said, No, I'm telling you that what they've done, that they've took care of. And he goes on, and Jesus told them many stories in this sense. The scribes and Pharisees, he said, how many of you? He said, well, first he said right here, he said, you not remember in the Old Testament where David hungered and there was no food present, and that he ate some manna out of off the righteous table that wasn't meant for a man to eat, and God did not condemn him for it because he had hunger pangs in his stomach and he was about to faint. And so there were occasions when this could be done. But this is what Jesus said, you're whited sepulchres. He said, you're clean on the outside, people think. They look at you and you talk with your mouth. But inside, he said, you're full of dead men's bones. You don't keep the commandments. You don't honor your father and mother. You don't do all the things you're supposed to do here. Your honor's gone. You don't have any honor because what you say with your mouth, you don't do with your heart. So it was the opposite of that. He said, and he called the multitude in unto them. He said, hear and understand. Verse 11, not that which goeth into the mouth defileth a man, but that which cometh out of his mouth is what defiles a man. What comes out of your mouth? Does honor come out of your mouth, or does dishonor come out of your mouth? Do you defile yourself daily like the scribes and Pharisees did by dishonoring God, by not quoting the word properly, by not saying the word properly? You got to say the word properly. Now, I don't have time but this morning, but the reason I got on this is I was going to develop that the church today has left Jesus like the scribes and Pharisees did, has left God, is now preaching a secular world gospel that is not Bible. And that's what Jesus said the Pharisees were doing. They were condemning him for what his little old disciples did, eat a little grain without washing their hand. And that's what law does for you. Law is a killer, and grace is a liver. Our time's come and gone. This is Brother Peter Tidbits from the Word. Turn on to WOAK.com on your radio.